This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 233-inch.
On this episode, we interview Steven Silver and Michael Ocean, co-creative directors and game designers of Multimorphic's Weird Al's Museum of Natural Hilarity pinball game.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Well, howdy, Dave, and howdy to our fabulous listeners. And intern Frank. Welcome to episode 233-inch.
We've got a lot to cover this episode, so let's skip any nonsense we have planned and get right into the nonsense that is what's happening in Weird Al related news.
Season 2 of Transformers Earthspark has dropped on Paramount Plus, and with it, Weird Al's brand new Transformers Universe cameo.
As previously reported, Weird Al played the Autobot Cosmos, and in the episode we learn Cosmos is a carnival ride similar to the Rotor or Gravitron.
Weird Al posted a clip of his cameo on social media, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already.
Here's hoping Cosmos shows up in future episodes.
Just last week, Weird Al appeared on a They Might Be Giants podcast called Don't Let's Start, a podcast about They Might Be Giants, hosted by Dave and Jordan, not you, Dave, a different Dave, and they talked all about everything you know is wrong. It would be really swell if we could talk to one of the hosts of that podcast right now on our podcast.
Sure, let's welcome Jordan Cooper from Don't Let's Start, a podcast about They Might Be Giants. How's it going, Jordan?
Hello, it is me, the Jordan Cooper, the famous. There's a yo-yo expert named Jordan Cooper if you Google, but I am the one who hosts the podcast all about They Might Be Giants, called Don't Let's Start a Podcast about They Might Be Giants. Yeah, I am extremely happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Jordan, you just interviewed Weird Al on your podcast, and you're also a huge Weird Al fan, so we would love to hear all about it. But I guess tell us about the podcast first, because I know a lot of Weird Al fans, myself included, are big They Might Be Giants fans too.
Yes, this is something I've discovered as well on my side of that world. Yeah, the podcast, I imagine we have similar stories, which is that me and my friend Dave just used to meet up at a diner and talk about the new They Might Be Giants album for 2 hours. and we also, we're both songwriters. We're both musicians. We just talk a lot about art and creativity. And sometimes it gets like profound and sometimes it gets stupid and silly. And it was supposed to be a casual show. And maybe you had this similar experience. It really snowballed into like an obsessive, densely researched, not full-time job, but when I'm working on an episode, it feels like a full-time job. It became just something kind of out of my control where it's like, okay, now each episode takes like a month to prepare because I want to find every single thing I can about each song.
Now, I would love to hear about this video you guys put together a couple years ago, talking in depth about everything you know is wrong. It's a fan favorite Weird Al song. I feel like when you talk to Weird Al superfans, a lot of them will say that's like a top 5 favorite song.
Yeah, play it live, Al. Give us what we want. Yeah, it's something I wanted to do like since starting the podcast. It's a YouTube exclusive. That's kind of like a parallel outlet for us. And then when I thought of that, I was like, actually, it lends itself really well to like a dense slideshow because I'm going to be naming, I think it was over 200. It was like a lot of They Might Be Giant songs, like as possibly, what Weird Al might be referencing is like name checked in that video. Wow. So I was like, well, this way I can like have this kind of pretty rapid moving slideshow that like shows the song lyrics and shows info about the songs. And then there's also this whole intro where I just talk about Weird Al, and I had all this like footage of, from Al TV and him showing the They Might Be Giants Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head video, and gives like a nice context. So yeah, I worked really, really hard preparing that episode. I just like obsessed over every single second of everything you know is wrong. And I was really proud of it. And then it kind of took on a big life of its own because if you look at our YouTube channel, most of the videos have like under 1,000 plays, you know, a couple hundred. That video right now has 24,000 plays. So, as my friend and co-host Dave says, we should have done a Weird Al podcast, but I didn't want to step on you guys' toes.
Well, thank you.
Because, you know, yeah.
What was the most surprising or interesting thing you learned about Everything You Know Is Wrong after talking to Weird Al?
Oh, that's a good question. I really wanted to dig inside the like what some might consider like the boring like technical process, and like it was just fascinating for him to tell me just in direct language that he's like, yeah, I gave our guitarist a list of songs, and you know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay, so you're really doing that. You're like typing out a list or handwriting a list of They Might Be Giant songs and being like, listen to these. Like, that's the kind of thing that I just was like, the kind of thing I was like craving for when I interviewed him. I was like, I just want to know like every little step of this process, you know? So I don't know if I would say that was like super surprising, but it was like very validating, like especially after our episode. Actually, I'll say the most surprising thing I heard was Weird Al saying, I listened to your YouTube video and you got everything right.
Wow.
Excellent.
He's basically like, because I was like, did we get anything wrong? And he's like, no, you guys looked at that thing like, look at that song like it was the Zapruder film. And he's just like, you basically were right about everything. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I've ever been told that in my entire life. Especially not by a hero of mine, you know, who I have, you know, been like loving since I was a tiny child. He's the first music I'd ever heard in my life, you know?
That's incredible. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate you coming on our podcast and telling us about this. The interview is available now on your podcast feed. Don't Let's Start, a podcast about They Might Be Giants. And you can find them at Don't Let's Pod on X, aka formerly Twitter. And then people can also go to your YouTube channel to hear that incredible Zapruder-esque breakdown of Everything You Know Is Wrong. Jordan, thank you so much for popping in and telling us all about this exciting interview.
I love to talk about Al. You know, anytime you need some content, hit me up.
Well, thank you to Jordan for joining us. You can check out his podcast, Don't Let's Start, a podcast about They Might Be Giants.
This episode is brought to you in part by Vegan Burrito Restaurant, Burrito Burrito, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in quesadilla Burrito Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito Burrito and Burrito Burrito your Burrito Burrito and Wizard Burger for mouthwatering loaded, dare I say beefy, vegan burgers. From Albany to Uranus, Burrito Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world plant-based real food, always vegan style. Visit BurritoSquare.com and WizardBurger.com to order ahead.
Weird Al was once again mentioned in a clue on the game show Jeopardy during the Monday, June 3rd episode.
The $400 clue in the classic song numbers category was Weird Al wanted to parody this Prince song by turning the year into an infomercial sales price, as in for only.
The answer, or the question, was of course, what is 1999?
And in other game show news, Pat Sajak, longtime host of Wheel of Fortune, has retired after 41 years on the air.
Weird Al appeared on the May 6, 1994 episode of Wheel of Fortune along with Lee Greenwood and the extremely amusing team of James Brown and Little Richard.
And you may also remember that Weird Al requested a sculpture of Pat Sajak's head made entirely out of tofu in the Disney Channel 1996 special Weird Al Yankovic, There's No Going Home.
Upon seeing the final product, Al remarked that it looked more like Alex Trebek and was further disappointed by the lack of the gooey, cream-filled center.
Weird Al also sings about Pat Sajak's longtime co-host, Vanna White, who is set to continue with Wheel of Fortune, at least through the 2025-2026 season, in the 1988 song Stuck in a Closet with Vanna White off of the Even Worse album.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, congratulations to Pat Sajak on his well-deserved retirement.
The Weird Pals Weird Al Tribute Band out of Nashville, Tennessee is back with yet another show later this summer.
You can catch Weird Pals August 10th at the Tomato Art Fest. For more information, check out tomatoartfest.com.
And now it's time for what's happening in the keyboard player related news.
Keyboard extraordinaire and El Maestro himself, Ruben Valtierra, has reported that he has undergone surgery to correct some issues that have been present since late last year that affected his ability to play.
He reports that he should be back to tickling the ivories as soon as August, and we can't wait to hear what he plays first.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we're sending our love and healing wishes to Ruben.
And now it's time for what's happening in past guest of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast related news.
Episode 220-inch guest and king of the automaton, the real Sully G, was on America's Got Talent this past week as part of the automaton supergroup called the Otama Collective.
Now, unfortunately, after only a few seconds into their cover of Sia's Chandelier, they were quite unfairly X'd by all 4 judges.
By way of his Discord, Sully mentioned that the sound mix was way off, and while they had ear monitors in, they could barely hear themselves playing because of it.
And also on his Discord, Sully shared a rehearsal video of what the America's Got Talent performance was supposed to look like had they been given an actual chance.
They have also uploaded their full cover online, which you can find on YouTube and by visiting The Real Sully G's social media.
Episode 7-inch guest and voice of Plankton on SpongeBob SquarePants, Mr. Lawrence, has announced a new project that he's working on.
The show is called Death Castle and is an animated comedy horror described as The Office meets Frankenstein.
Ooh, what a great opportunity for Weird Al to make a cameo. Well, all right, Dave, I think it's time for this episode's interview. Why don't you take it away?
Ethan and I are absolutely thrilled to be talking to 2 of the masterminds behind Weird Al's Museum of Natural Hilarity. We are excited to welcome to the podcast 2 of the co-creators, Steven Silver and Michael Ocean. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
We are both so excited to talk to you about this game. Now, I've had this game since September, and I've been playing it pretty much nonstop in anticipation of this interview. So I'm all ready to dive in. And Ethan was over at my house a couple weeks ago playing as well. So we're ready. We're totally ready to ask all about this game.
Awesome.
And just to be clear, I don't know that you even said this, Dave, but this is the Weird Al pinball machine, I guess, as it's more colloquially known. And as Dave said, I haven't had quite as much exposure as he has, being that I think, Dave, you use it as a bed now. You sleep on it. Is that true?
I have it surgically attached to my fingers, the flippers. So I'm been playing this thing forever. I love this game so much. I gotta say, seriously, people come over and they say, "How is this game?" Or they ask me about this game, and as far as is it true to Weird Al? And I tell them that if Ethan and I designed this game, we probably would have designed it exactly like this because it is so true to Weird Al. It goes so deep with the references. It's amazing. It's like you guys were in our mind. You know, you're digging deep for some of these references. I can't wait to get into them and talk to you about how this game came to be.
Awesome.
I'm smiling ear to ear hearing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a heck of a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess almost to say what Dave said in another way, what really I would love to hear is what qualified you guys to tackle this project, because you did it with such nuance and respect for Al and his fans, and it really blew me away. I mean, when I heard that a Weird Al pinball machine was coming, I'm not expecting something of this incredible quality. I'm expecting, they're going to have Eat It. They're going to, put some Hawaiian print on it, and they're going to slap Weird Al's face on it, and that's all it's going to be. But really what we ended up getting is this really deep, respectful love letter to Weird Al and his fans. And it's just really, just as Dave said, I don't think we could have come up with a better pinball machine ourselves as lifelong hardcore fans. So what is your experience with Al? What got you guys to create this?
The company has been around. Multimorphic's been around for quite some time, and we've been developing this platform. For those that don't know, the Multimorphic P3 is a different kind of pinball machine. It's a modular system where we've got, if you think of a Nintendo where you've got cartridges that come out, we've got a multi-game system where you can pull out the back third, where the back third of your shots you can pull that out and you can swap it for new modules and new games. So when we release a new game, you only buy the module and you pop it in and you've got a whole new game. Or you can get new software games and you can play those on existing modules. So Jerry Stellenberg, the guy who invented this company, created this system, and we've been developing it with a lot of games on it, and we've been looking for a while for our first licensed game. We had a bunch of games. By the time we were looking for a licensed game, we had about five. We had about 3 or 4 games, hardware games on the system. We were looking for a licensed game that we could release. And Jerry and I were just talking. We were like, I've been a lifelong fan of Weird Al. I've always, I was just talking to him, and we were trying to think about licenses that would be great. And I was just like, man, this would be a killer theme, but we'd never get him. Like, it'd be impossible. And we were small. We were a small company, and we were like, we're gonna try. And so Jerry went out and started making the calls, and he got in touch with Jay Levy, his manager, and they struck up a deal, and we started the discussions. And Jerry reached out and talked to Michael and found out Michael is a diehard Weird Al fan, and so and this is the thing, everybody comes out of the woodwork. You start finding all the Weird Al super fans out there, and we all, once we were all so excited, but it was also like, well, we're going to keep temper our expectations because it's not going to happen, right? We'll just expect it to happen, and then what songs are we going to be able to get? And when we found what we found with Jay and with Al is really, really great partners to work with on this license that, they let us choose pretty much the songs that we wanted to work with. And we were trying to find a good mix of, it's a mass market game. So you need to find the popular parodies that he had, but we also wanted to get the richer, library of songs that he had and start bringing those in. And really they worked with us. I think he only swapped out one song that he preferred a different one for. And then we were off to the races, going and developing the game.
And from my experience, having written software for Pinball before and working with Jerry before, to get a message from him out of the blue, listen, NDA related question, are you familiar with Weird Al? And I was like, am I familiar with Weird Al? The very first cassette tape I ever owned was in 3D. I remember being a kid in the backseat of my parents' car being like, oh, music is great and hilarious and awesome. And then finding out, oh no, it's mostly Al. I would be interested in that. That would be amazing. Please and thank you. So it was a lot of fun to put our creative energy into this game and try really. I mean, Weird Al is amazing, and his career spans so many different genres and so much stuff. To have the opportunity to try to represent him and the universe and all the different things he represents to people, it was a tall order, but a lot of fun. It was just a really, really cool exercise to try to how do we properly honor this transcendent man and his career.
And you asked, like, how do we feel qualified? I still don't feel qualified to have taken this up, but I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to. It's the opportunity of a lifetime,
Yeah, you definitely feel a little bit like a faker when you're just like, oh, Al's not going to... How on earth is Weird Al going to review my work and think it's good? It's very scary and daunting, but I mean, nothing but great... I mean, and when you get even just a little bit of feedback, that's, you're just like, oh my gosh, forget making your parents proud. I mean, anyway...
When we sent off the final package to him, we did the big stream. We were like, here's the full package of the game. We sent it off, and we had always been told that doing license work in pinball is extremely difficult. There's all these restrictions with licenses. There's always these big changes. You do a ton of work, and they're always thrown out, and you're always pulling your hair out and everything else. So we sent everything off for them to watch the stream and pick it apart. And I was really stressing, waiting to hear that feedback. I was just walking around in circles for the few days where we're waiting to hear back. And we got the note back that was just like, yeah, Al and his wife were just sitting on his couch, just cracking up and loving every bit of it. And the only note he had was change this number to a 27, and that's it. And I was like, man, licenses are easy. What are people talking about? Like, everybody's a big bunch of whiners in this industry. And I've been pretty spoiled by Al because he is everything that anybody has ever said about him. He's the world's nicest, greatest person. And he's such a consummate professional to work with and just incredible.
Can you speak to what you mean by stream? So did you send him like a video of you guys playing the machine, or what is he actually watching when he's approving that with Suzanne?
Yeah, we had Jerry would set up the camera over the machine and the factory and just basically record a top-down view of it and basically walk through all the modes and basically say, you know, here, I'm going to take you through the whole story, the whole world of the game, and kind of explain this whole thing that we've put together and like this is a final package and so you can kind of see everything and have it all explained out and go through like that.
Now, is that the first time that Weird Al's seeing this game, or is he involved earlier on?
So we're sending we're sending like artwork for approval. We're sending other stuff for approval as we're going back and forth. We're going through. Al's very busy, right? So we're going a lot of stuff through Jay, and Jay's giving stuff back and forth.
Right.
But we basically, you know, waited till we had a lot of it's what you don't want to do is you don't want to send like a mode that has a bunch of placeholder assets and stuff that's half built, you know, off. So we kind of waited till we had basically the game was basically put together to present and show them, you know, but we had already gotten a bunch of the assets and everything already approved and signed off on. We've gotten his likeness signed off on for all the puppets and everything, and the lobby dinosaur and everything that we had and all those things then. So like all the main concepts were like signed off on. The story of the game was signed off on and everything, but we it's the first time we had actually sent off and said, okay, this is it in action. This is actually it being played through. So
wow.
Yeah, for people who aren't familiar with pinball, right, it's an enormous undertaking, right? It's this insane challenge. You've got software, you've got art, you've got sound, you've got music, and you've got lights, and all these things that have to be perfectly coordinated and executed. And when people think of pinball, they typically think of the traditional painted piece of wood pinball. They're not thinking of pinball, right? That's got a dynamic screen that tracks the physical ball rolling over it. And so, we had the opportunity to work with an amazing artist, Matt Andrews, who painted these beautiful, beautiful scenes. And we have these different scenes for all the different songs that are represented as different halls and different exhibits in the museum. And so having all of this come together, there was lots of iteration internally, but we wanted to make sure things were presenting, pretty far along before we bothered Jay and Al with them.
Right.
And for the listeners that don't know, that the lower 2/3 of the playfield is, instead of that painted piece of wood, we've got an LCD screen that has the mechanics floating over it, and it's got a ball tracking screen there. So as you change and you go into these modes, we change the entire environment. So when you play like a surgeon, you start off in the lobby, and then you slide into the surgical suite where Al's there, and he's giving you an introduction, and then you go in there and you're operating on a patient. Or when you go into Amish Paradise, you go into like an actual Amish version of a pinball machine. So we can change the entire environment based on the mode that you're in, and you can also have ball interactions. So like we have this big tiled floor in the lobby, and one of the early things we did is we've got the ball tracking, so as the ball's rolling over the floor, all the tiles light up when the ball rolls over it. So it's sort of, the Michael Jackson, Billie Jean music video kind of homage there that's going on. And but when you get into multi-balls, we've got the dinosaur in the middle of we've got the Allosaurus from that's sitting there, and the Allosaurus in the centerpiece of the museum that's sitting there. He's kind of tapping his foot while Fun Zone's playing. Fun Zone is our main song. But then when you start a multi-ball, then he starts really dancing, and he does flips and stuff when you do jackpots and things like that. But then we can really take those floor tiles and have amazing light shows that Michael just killed it with those light shows, with the tiles just going in all sorts of circles and lights and going crazy. And so The screen really lets us do a lot of incredible stuff and immersion into this world. But it's also a ton of work. So, but we really are proud of what we were able to pull off with the screen in this world.
Now, I know we've sort of, on the podcast previously, we've talked about sort of the game and the premise, but I would love if you guys could talk about what is the game, what is the story, to help clue in some listeners. And additionally, I'm also curious, where did that pitch start? Did it start off as this museum of natural hilarity, or is that something that built in your discussions with Al and Jay?
So it was us. We did not start at the museum. We pitched a whole lot of ideas because the thing with most pinball themes is that you have like a movie theme, and that's a self-contained thing. Or you've got a band, and the band has one aesthetic, one sound, and it's like, this is how this band looks, and it's one thing. But Al, you can't put Al in a box. Al is all genres. Al is everything. Every music video is all different. Everything's different. So you can't make one thing of Al. But we had to figure out a container that we can put all this craziness into. And so we were bouncing around a ton of ideas. We always go into these games trying to come up with a pitch, a story. Like, what's the idea? We had a lot of ideas. We had amusement park ideas. We had arcade ideas. We had all sorts of ideas we bounced around that we were trying to find. And we finally landed on like this idea of a museum and having these different exhibits. And once we realized, we could have these halls that you could go into that would be containers that you could pair songs together. That was kind of our unifying factor when we were picking our songs too, is like, hey, these songs kind of go together as a pairing, and these songs kind of go together as a pairing. This kind of was this thing that brought the whole story together. And everything that I love that point when everything starts clicking together. Once we landed on the museum idea, then everything started coming together really quick, and it was everything started flowing.
And I think Steven, in my memory, Steven deserves 100% of the credit for that, because I was really, really stuck and insistent on, it's a warehouse. It's a warehouse filled with all these artifacts. And it's like, that's not right. I'm like, I know it's not right, but it's close. And, Steven was like, I think it's a museum. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's a museum. And then, and then we were off to the races.
Wow.
That, and I love the idea of making all these old pieces of art have Al's head on them and redoing all these little pieces of art all over the place. So if you look all through the museum, there's all sorts of little sculptures and things like that all over there with Al as the piece. And Matt did an incredible job with that.
Yeah, and a lot of the games, too, you have little Easter eggs as far as, references to other Weird Al songs that didn't necessarily become their own exhibit halls or anything like that, but just like call outs to different Weird Al songs. So like I said, this really goes deep. Like every time I play it, I feel like I see something else that I haven't seen before. So it's really cool how detailed this is.
Oh, does Al have more songs?
Does Al have more songs? Oh, we thought we got them all.
Yeah, I know. Does he have more than 17 songs? That didn't take us forever to narrow down to just 17 songs from his incredible, huge library of music.
That's what I was going to ask you guys about. How did you narrow this down to these 17 songs that you ended up choosing?
Well, what's amazing is that we all still talk to each other after those early conversations about whose song is going to get in and whose song isn't going to get in.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. But I think we're a good group, and we're even when we're heated, we're respectful. So we made our pitches for what songs we wanted in there. I mean, we obviously wanted some of the more mainstream covers that people who are sort of casually fans of Al, so that they have something that they can latch onto and they can enjoy. But then we also wanted original songs, and we knew we wanted Fun Zone. I think right from the beginning, we knew we wanted. We all had songs where we immediately agreed. We were like, yes, obviously, Hardware Store is in, sure. But from there, we really had to think about, well, okay, in the context of pinball, is the tempo good? Would it be fun? What would the mode look like? What would the player's objective be? And we really hashed it out. And I think Yeah, as Steven said, we do have 17 songs. There are plenty of songs we obviously we couldn't include them all. We'd still be developing the game now.
For sure.
And but yeah, I think we did try to represent the whole world of Al and what that means to Harvey's in there. Harvey's front and center, right? It's a lot. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
I'll just say that I'm extremely proud that because of us, people regularly go and choose to play a Crosby, Stills and Nash pinball song over and over and over again. And who knew that would make a great pinball mode, right? So...
Well, yeah, for sure. I was surprised at a lot of the choices, and they're good choices, and they work in the context of the game. But like you went deep, like you said, with mission statement. Like I would have never expected to see, that in a Weird Al pinball collection, or even like a traffic jam or a sports song. These are some deep cuts that are in there, and you still have, like you said, Amish Paradise, Like a Surgeon, My Bologna, Dare to Be Stupid, some of the bigger, more well-known hits. But you definitely go deep in here, so I was very happy to see the selections of songs that it didn't just stick with the big, well-known singles.
Well, one thing about Mission Statement is that was one I was kind of fighting for because it's such a great song, and I was like, it doesn't feel like a pinball song, but I'm like, I think this could be great, and especially if we can get access to the assets from the music video. And we did. We contacted through house people. We contacted them and they put us in touch with the production house who made the music video for Mission Statement. And we licensed the official doodles that they did for that fantastic thing. I had to go and reanimate all those doodles again. But we got them. So those are the official ones. And so we basically is like, yes, you get to play the music video for Mission Statement. And it's awesome. Like you get all the way to the stock split at the end, and you have to get synergy to every time we go and you play along with the lyrics as you go along. Every time he gets to the synergy lyrics, you got to cash in your stock options and stuff like that. And it's so great when you play through it. And that's the thing is like that these songs are so fun in their own way that any one of them can turn out to be a fun, great experience. And so there's a lot of surprises in there.
When you're working with these songs themselves, are you working with just the literal tracks that, we all know and love? Or are you working with the stems and able to adjust what we're hearing and when it starts and stops?
Well, they give us the studio masters. So they don't give us the stems, but they give us the studio masters. So we get the highest quality that they had recorded, right? But we're not going in and necessarily changing them a whole lot. But if we had to, I think with some of them we were able to make loops and stuff like that for some stuff. But that's that we do get the master tracks from those.
So I don't know if we specifically mentioned this or not, but we sort of hinted about it. Like when we were talking about mission statement, is that not only are you playing these games, but each one of these songs, or what you call exhibit halls, are their own sort of little mini game, and they all have like graphics and music and different games and actions that you can play. They're all related to the song. Like, for example, we talked about mission statement. That's like you turn that into a stock market game. Sports song is all about, it's like on a football field and you're shooting and you're trying to score more points than the other team. And, it's yelling at you if you don't score points for your team and you score points for the other team. And weasel stomping day, you just go out and you stomp weasels. It's like very, like each one of these games are totally different. And so it's not only just the pinball game, but you've got all these little sub games underneath of it, which I thought was really exciting. And I love all these games so much. It's often hard to pick, once I get to go and have to choose between 2 or sometimes all 10 of these games. It's always tough to pick which one I want to play.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very diverse mix of songs, and we try to have the gameplay represent those things. One of my favorite things is the fact that you can play word crimes and have people playing pinball to simulate filling out a Scantron. You're taking a test, which is, with the overhead projector. It's such a great environment for a pinball mode.
We had to make it a pinball mode, right? So we we had to say, okay, well, there's a hint. Like if you're not going to read the screen, if you just got to shoot shots, the people that are going to be mad about that, it's like, we'll give them a hint. So we have Al at the beginning tell you he's very hint. He gives you a hint about which shots to hit. He's like, I'll see you soon. If you see you soon, it's like every shot. If you just shoot for C, the answer's always C. Then you're going to be right. So.
Yeah. Well, while we're on this subject of word crimes, who came up with those amazing questions? Because yes, the answer is always C, but there's always 3 other answers, which are hilarious if you think about the question involved. And there's a lot of questions. It's not just like the same 5 or 6 questions over and over again. I don't know how many there are, but I feel like I'm constantly seeing new questions.
Well, actually, that's funny. We in the original version we had come up with a bunch of them, but then we opened it up. So there is a P3 owners Discord server where a lot of owners and fans have congregated, and we opened it up and let that fan base and owner base suggest other questions, other word crimes, and we added them in the most recent update, actually. So
cool.
The most recent update has even more. It's submitted from the community.
How nice. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I guess, while we're kind of hopping on similar tangents, you were talking about the call-outs that Al did. Now, you guys won, the 2022 Pinball Award for Best Call-outs, and obviously you guys won because it's Weird Al saying them. I would love to hear the process of writing them, getting them recorded, how they're integrated into the game. I'd just love to hear everything you can tell us about these call-outs.
Yeah, so we usually, when we're doing a game, we usually have a writing session where we invite everybody that wants to participate on the team to come in and write them, and then everybody pitches ideas for we have the stuff we need to say in the game, and we all sit around. A whole lot of bad ideas get thrown out, but we whittle them down, and everybody goes in there, and we kind of keep writing until we get a good solid list. But man, everybody was on fire with these call outs. Like we ended up with not just some good call outs, but we ended up with a ton of good call outs. And so when I went into that recording session with Al, and I've talked to some colleagues of mine in the industry, and they've dealt with big licensed people before. And I was asking them how their sessions went and everything, and they're like, yeah, we'll usually get about 45 minutes or an hour with the celebrity, and then they're like, I'm done, and they'll throw the rest of the script in the trash, and then they'll walk out because that's it. That's all the time you get with that celebrity, right? They're very busy people, right? That's just where it is. I went into that recording session, and first of all, again, Al is the nicest person in the world. He's incredibly approachable and ready to work. And then the second we hit record, it was just instantaneous. It was like 1989 again, that incredible energy. And he went for 3 solid hours screaming into that microphone nonstop. And I felt bad, and we packed that entire 3 hours because we had all that script. And I front-loaded my script. I was like, this is the stuff we have to have. Towards the end of it, it was all the stuff we'd love to have, but wasn't that necessary. And I kept telling him, I was like, Al, if you're getting tired, if you need to quit, I understand. We can chuck the rest of this script if you want to. And he's like, no, I am here as long as you need me. This is great. We'll keep going. And seriously, he stuck through it the entire time. And he's like, my voice will be destroyed tomorrow, but I'm here for this today. We're going to get through this. And so we got through that entire 3-hour script, and it was all gold. It was all great. And he would give me like so many different takes. There'd be sometimes I'd be like, this is great. And he's like, no. Let me give you a couple more. I didn't like this. Let me give you some different ones. And so we've got all that in the game. You will be listening and you'll be like, oh, he said it. I don't believe he said it. He said it completely differently this time. And so like you will be playing it and you will hear it all sorts of different ways in the game when you're playing it. And so that was, first of all, I'm trying everything I can not to crack my voice and not to squeal, because this is like my dream come true directing Weird Al in the studio. And so we finally get to the end of that session, And I could tell he's just beat and everything's done. And we're at the end of our 3 hours too, and we're done. And he's ready to go. But I'm like, can I get you to do just one more thing? And I'm like, my programmer, Michael Ocean, he's got his son is a super fan of yours. Can you just record a quick message to Sammy and just let him know, just say something personal to Sammy because it would mean the world to him. And I sent you guys a video in that package that I sent you earlier. It's called the Sammy video, where he's like, yeah, sure. And just instantly turns on and does this awesome, like, personal message to Sammy. He's like, hey, Sammy, eat your vegetables and all this stuff. It's a very close personal friend. I love you. And I hope you're doing well and everything else like that. And so we got that message, and then we hid it from Michael. We weren't Michael's like, hey, where's the audio? And like, we hid it from him for a while because I was taking that and I used that as my test audio when I was building the owl puppets to say, okay, this is what I'm going to use to actually do the first animation test of the puppets. And so, like, I was like, all right, here's the animation test, and then you can also show this to Sammy. And so this is something that he got to show his son, and we just blew his mind when he saw it.
Oh man, how cool!
Yeah, I was speechless. I didn't even know. I had such a hard day. They shared it on a call with me, and I was just dumbstruck. I was like, what? What is happening? Oh my gosh. And yeah, my son was beside him. I mean, it's the most incredibly thoughtful thing, which, I mean, of course, right? It's Al. It's everything you heard, but you don't expect it to be real. It's really, really, really special.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah, we had to write new code to be able to support all the different variations of the call-outs. I was like, okay, I've got to make sure that someone's not going to hear the same call-out 2 times in a row. You should be able to listen to... I mean, what if you keep playing, right? I mean, we should really try to mix it up so that, you're less likely to hear it. And if you're playing multiplayer, when the second person who goes into the same mode, they should hear the shorter version of the instructions, so you don't have to hear the same instructions. But then if you skip the instructions, he gives you like a little quip or a little like, oh, I guess you know everything. We had code in there that when you interrupt him, sometimes you'll get that, sometimes you get a okay, like a all right. You don't want. So yeah, it's so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah, and that we knew early on that whatever sort of structure we tried to put the game together in, it would have to be something where it was very Al forward, right? Where you were with him all the time. So ideas in which you have to rescue him or something like that, that doesn't make any sense. He needs to be your companion throughout this whole thing.
Yeah. And
through the delivery of the call-outs, because they're so personal, I remember thinking there's a Star Trek Next Generation pinball machine, and you have Jean-Luc Picard saying, all hands prepare for multi-ball. And I was like, that's the best call out in pinball. And no, every single call out in this game is the best call out in pinball. Weird Al telling you, how to perform surgery. Him telling you, how to look into the microscope and how to deal with germs. I don't want to spoil the end of the game, but the end of the game is crazy. It's all, every single one of them just feels like I am hanging out with Weird Al. This is very bizarre and amazing. So yeah.
So normal pinball machines will have like a couple hundred call-outs in the game. We've got over 3,000 call-outs from Weird Al.
Holy
in this game.
crap.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Amazing.
So I destroyed his voice.
How long would you estimate if someone, let's say Dave, for example, he gets his pinball machine, how many days playing straight through for 24 hours straight before he hears all 3,000 of those?
Jeez, I have no idea.
Oh, well, technically, I think we have a couple that we've held back. So that way when future updates come out, there's something to keep people excited. But also, I mean, I don't know. Dave, have you run with scissors yet? Have you ran with scissors? Have you?
You know what? I have not get. I think you guys call them wizard games. This is my first pinball machine ever, so I'm still learning a lot of the lingo. But no, I have not seen all of the 17 songs yet because I have not seen You Make Me yet, which I know is one of the Wizard games, and I have not seen the ending yet either, so I'm looking forward to that. I know I have not heard all 3,000 Weird Al callouts because every once in a while I'll be playing, like you said, and there'll be one that I had not heard before, which always makes me laugh whenever that happens. I'm like, I thought I was hearing all these, but there's another one that comes up. Or like I didn't even know that there were different variations of certain some of the wording. So I'm going to have to really listen a little closer. But yeah, like even starting different mini games, the different exhibit halls, sometimes they start differently, between one game and the next game.
Yeah. Well, next time you start up a game, press start and then don't launch your ball for a little while. And,
yes.
Have you done that?
I have done that. I've done that a couple of times, and I've cut them off a few times on going into the different exhibit halls, and I like how he yells at you as well for cut them off.
Yeah, there are a lot of variations of even that, of even just failing to launch the ball
Right.
at the start of the game.
So Dave, I am the representative at Multimorphic for all of the bad pinball players in the world, right? And so I'm always speaking up for people that aren't good at pinball. And but good. Luckily, there's a lot of features in the P3 that are built for us, right? So so here's what I want you to do. Next time you start that game, I want you to hold the right flipper button in and press the start button. And what it'll do is it'll let you it'll open up the profile menu. And what you can do is you can set up a profile. You can set up a Dave profile, right? And that's where you can have personalized settings for your game. So let's say you want to have personalized easy settings, or you can set up like a kid's profile and a dad profile, so the kids can all play under the kids profile as a team against dad or something like that. That's where we can do team play. But if you've got the Dave setting, then when you start and you play ball 1 and you make a lot of progress, and you play ball 2, you make a lot of progress.
Don't launch that third ball.
Don't launch the third ball. Get back into that profile menu. Hold the right flipper button and press the start button again. You get back into that profile menu. You can save your progress. You save where you are at that ball 2. And then what happens is the next time you walk up to the machine, you load up your Dave profile. And you can set that as your default profile too, to where every time you start the ball, it starts off with Dave. If you get a high score, your initials are already set up in there, right? You can go up there, you say, load my last game, load that last save state where I was, and this is how you get to that wizard mode. This is how you work your way up there where you can get the wording with scissors. You don't have to do it all in one game. You can make a little bit of progress every day. All you got to do to get to You Make Me is you just got to visit one exhibit in all 5 halls. So if you've made it to 3 exhibits on ball 2, save your state, and then try on ball 3, and then start the next game, reload that state, and then you're back to where you were at the end of ball 2, and you're starting a new 3-ball game with all that progress already saved. And it's one of those great features of the P3.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That is insane.
I didn't know that either. This changes everything. Where were you guys back in September to tell me this? This changes everything.
Sorry. Yeah.
But
This is our, we're trying to personally go on everybody's personal podcast that owns a P3 and let them know this is how we're advertising.
It's a strategy for a lot of things, actually. It's we just want to talk to every individual person, and sometimes we'll, I'll save your ball if you need me to. I'll just reach down there and I'll grab it. Yeah, but I mean, right? That's the crazy thing about pinball, right? Like we built this awesome experience with so much to do and so much to see. But it's locked behind being able to play pinball well, right? It's locked behind your ability to sort of see what you can get done in 3 balls. Or you could go into settings and make it a 5-ball game. Or you could go into settings and make it a 10-ball game, right? I mean, you own the machine. You can set those up any way you want. It's not like you're stealing tokens from yourself. Those aren't your quarters.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I will admit I don't know if this is considered cheating in the pinball world or not, but I did. You can also go in and adjust like the side bumpers so you don't automatically go down the sides and lose your ball. And the pinball machine came with a little bumper that you could put in the middle of the flippers that protects you from going right down the center a lot of times. I immediately installed those two things because I knew that I needed a little help with this game, but I do love that. And I haven't poked around it much, but this game, like you said, is very customizable because I have been in like the system manager and I've noticed, you can change like settings on pretty much everything on this game. So I do like that. And I haven't, like I said, dug in there too much, but it's certainly a nice feature of this pinball game, and I'm assuming all of the Multimorphic games, all the games on this P3 as well. So that's really nice. Just go back to the call-outs since we were on that topic. Were there any call-outs that you had sent to Weird Al where he maybe suggested, let's change the wording on this or let's not do this one? And along those same lines, were there any in your 3-hour mega recording session that he just improvised or made up on the spot? We need to pause the interview right there, but don't flip out. We will pick up where we left off with Stephen and Michael on the next episode.
Be sure to check out multimorphic.com for more information.
Our close personal friend, Mike Minnick, recently sent us a real gem of a song parody.
Let's take a listen, shall we?
Listen to Dave, listen to Ethan, just ignore Frank cause he's a heathen. Going to Darwin, not Chilliwack, want a Wizard Burger, not a Big Mac. Whoa! Their podcast really is exceptional. My favorite show, I'm really into it. 2000 inch and we're all listening to it. Whoa! Whoa! My favorite show, I'm really into it. 2000 inch and we're all listening to it.
Go, David, go, David, go.
That was totally awesome.
Go, Ethan, go, Ethan, go.
Because I have a lot of copies of Bad Hair Day.
Interviewed John, interviewed Jim, even interviewed that guy Ruben. They were in Weird Al's new biopic that became a 5-episode topic. Whoa! The podcast is quite incredible. There was an episode that had me in it. 2000 inch and we're all listening to it. Whoa! Whoa! 2000 inch and we're all listening to it. I'm not going to Albuquerque. I'm not eating a Twinkie Wiener sandwich. I'm not doing a gosh darn thing. Cause I know I got another inch coming.
Another inch coming. You know there's always another inch coming. Centimeter coming. Centimeter coming. You know there's always a great review coming. Another inch coming. Another inch coming. The next inch is gonna be sensational. Gill and chill, yo!
Love their podcast every Wednesday. I'm not missing a single one cause this podcast makes my world turn. You know it's so much fun.
Go, David, go, Ethan, go!
2000 inch and we're all listening to it. Whoa! 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 Whoa!
Go, David, go, Ethan, go!
2000 inch and we're all listening to it.
Wow, thank you, Mike. We love it, and we are so flattered.
This is simply pretty stinking majestic. And joining Mike on the recording are friends of the podcast, Zeb Lemke and Jake Larson, who lent their voices for the background vocals.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast, thank you, Mike, Zeb, and Jake for the pretty stinking majestic song.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota, beautiful, it's also all torn up.
Local visitor to Darwin, Minnesota, known on YouTube by the handle Hostage Situation 1012, posted a new video to his account showing his recent trip to Darwin, Minnesota.
He first reports, quote, "Uh-oh, Darwin is all torn up," referring to our great roads, which are currently all torn up.
He also reports on, quote, a bunch of free stuff located adjacent to the Great Perennial Bank, including scores such as flower pots, a record player, and 10 different mugs with local Darwin and Dassel businesses on them.
His perusal is then disturbed by the presence of a person wearing their traditional taco costume, which caused him to scream out, "Hey taco suit! Hey taco! Hey taco!"
Hey taco suit, hey taco, indeed.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next taco-suited expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit www.discoverdarwin.biz.
Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors, Burrito, Wizard Burger, our very own Jackson Scoggins, and Discover Darwin. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our very own close personal friend level Patreon supporters, Kev Messick, Casey Killingsworth, Allison, Adriana Banana Yukovic, Gus and Alicia, Ron, Zeb, Dana B. and Beaker, UH Jeff, Blair, Kenneth, Ajax, Javier, Weird's Dream Date Nancy, Scotto Brothers, Matt, Zach Casper, and also thanks to Macy K, Richard B, Dustin Jablonski, Robert, Tony G, and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our flipperific Weird Al podcast, as heard in the Weird the Al Yankovic story commentary track, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast, your own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every bonus episode, and the self-satisfaction of doing something important with your otherwise pitiful, meaningless existence.
And don't forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our fine podcast. We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community at group.2000inch.com and visit our Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al and Red Rump the Goody related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and guests over at 2000inch.com or weirdalpodcast.com.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, X, Threads, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, you will land on nothing when you spin the Wheel of Stupidity. Plus, we also love it when we receive voicemail via our official patent-pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula, as seen in the Illustrated Al, The Songs of Weird Al Yankovic. That number is 347-772-8852. Give it a call or a text, and you might even hear your message in a future episode.
Thank you once again to Steven Silver and Michael Ocean for joining us this episode. And a thank you to Jordan Cooper of Don't Let's Start, a podcast about They Might Be Giants, for helping us with the Weird Al related news. We'd also like to thank Jerry Stellenberg, Multimorphic, UH Jeff Nucera, Mike Minnick, Zeb Lemke, Jake Larson, John Katz, Ruben Valtierra, The Real Sully G, Jared Marker, Joe Jaffa, Claire Walsh, Hostage Situation 1012, Taco Suit, and our very own Jackson Scoggins. Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song. And thank you to the Transformers veteran Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thank you to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Tune in next episode for the conclusion of our interview with Stephen and Michael about Weird Al's Museum of Natural Hilarity. Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And until next time, remember to gill and chill, keep listening to Weird Al, and stay cheesy.
Hey Ethan, check this out. I just acquired a brand new Weird Al karaoke CDG off of eBay.
Well, Dave, I think you know that Weird Al hasn't officially released any CDGs, so that's absolutely a bootleg of some sort.
Well, duh. But we can still have fun. Here, I'll do a song.
Oh, wait, Intern Frank, make sure you mute Dave's CDG audio so we don't get a copyright strike. Did stupid Intern Frank mute your mic by accident, Dave?
Nope, it's still working.
See, that's the problem with bootlegs. They aren't held to the same quality standards as the real thing.
No, it's working just fine. The track is loud and clear on my end.
Well, why aren't you singing yet?
Well, the vocals haven't kicked in yet.
What did you pick? Fun Zone?
Haha, very funny. Of course not. I picked the 10 minutes of silence before Bite Me on Off the Deep End.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 233-inch.
Weird Al's podcast of natural hilarity.
Hey, Sammy, it's your close personal friend, Weird Al Yankovic, and I just want to say hi. You never call, you never write. I miss you terribly. I'm worried sick about you. I hope you're eating your broccoli, and I hope we get to hang out again like we did back in the old days. Remember? Such great memories. Anyway, Sammy, keep in touch. Don't be a stranger, and don't forget about lunch on Thursday. Okay, bye.